We're trying to stop kids before they get addicted to drugs or before they experiment with drugs.
It's an effort state and national leaders have tried to fight for decades.
I'd like to see every young person in the world join the Just Say No to Drugs Club.
In 1982, Nancy Reagan announced an anti-drug campaign meant to stop kids from doing drugs.
Help your children to just say no.
Fast forward 35 years, and the rise in drug problems is now a full-blown epidemic. In 1999, there were roughly 8,000 opiate-related deaths. By 2015, that number quadrupled.
This marks a critical step.
President Trump released the administration's plan for recovery and says he's confident the country can overcome addiction with advertisement campaigns.
What kind of drugs were you doing?
I was drinking a lot and doing a lot of pills and cocaine and some heroin.
I met a recovering addict who wanted to keep her identity hidden. Like millions of others, the 19-year-old says she sat through an anti-drug education program in high school called DARE. A federal report called it a failure, and the program was dropped by a majority of schools around the country, starting around a decade ago.
What about the program do you think didn't work?
I think it was more fear-based. It's not really effective, and they didn't really give you a good understanding of why not to.
Warren York is trying to change that. He's with the Christian-based organization Teen Challenge Vermont, visiting high schools around the country.
When I was a kid, we were told just don't do drugs. We're trying to talk about making good decisions and small compromises that lead to drug use and how to prevent those.
And while experts say the program is successful for some, that's not the case for everyone.
Just like addiction doesn't care about demographics and age and religion, it's the same with programming.
These are pictures Berry City's Deputy Fire Chief Joseph Aldsworth sent me, showing a real problem. Dirty, used needles being left in public spaces. And he's not the only one spotting them.
I find them throughout the town.
I showed those pictures to people on the street, and they are most worried about the kids finding them. Residents say the syringes have been found in public places, like playgrounds.
I'm just thinking of some little kid coming along, picking it up.
It's horrible. I have kids. It's awful. It makes me, kind of nervous and scared.
So what should you do if you spot one of these in your neighborhood?
If you find a needle in the city of Barrie, please call the dispatcher.
Deputy Fire Chief Joseph Aldsworth showed me how to properly dispose of a dirty needle. Step 1, put on gloves.
So you just don't know what's going to happen.
Step 2, pick it up by the center of the barrel.
Okay, if you have this right here, you just click it down, and that's the safety.
Step 3, place it in a plastic bottle or a sharps container.
And we do the same thing, and then close it up.
Step 4, label the plastic bottle and drop it off at a police or fire station. If you are not comfortable touching one of these yourself, just call the authorities and they can take care of it. Berry City and town have been working together to roll out these new syringe drops. It's to encourage people to properly throw out their dirty needles.
It's frustrating. I don't want to go through people's garbage. My guys don't want to go through people's garbage.
But despite these efforts, some don't think it's enough to change people's bad habits.
They don't care, they're just going to throw them out. It's like trying to get your kid to pick up their toys.
I think it makes it safer, sort of superficially.
I'm pulling my children out. They're going to be homeschooled. I've already started the process.
Megan Raymond is fed up with Milton after she says her 9-year-old daughter was severely bullied at school.
My biggest concern, obviously, is the safety and welfare of my child.
But she also complains the school does not share information about how they're addressing the incident. We did reach out to school officials to try to get them to comment on the issue. They refused to go on camera. They did send out a letter to parents, and some parents were not satisfied.
In all honesty, the letter that they sent out, it really doesn't say anything. It just says, oh, we adhere to all of our policy procedures. We do what we're supposed to do. We take the steps we're supposed to take. And they're not. In the past 2 months, they are not.
So what is the policy? According to the letter sent out, quote, Milton Town School District follows the Vermont bullying policy, which sets strict standards for how schools respond to reports. The letter continues, quote, schools are prohibited by federal law from telling the victim's parents about discipline imposed on the accused. This can understandably be difficult for families who may feel that nothing has been done. School resource officer Scott Philbrook was willing to speak with us. The school will bring him in after things get physical.
A lot of times it's students putting hands on each other.
He says there's an average of one situation a week at the elementary school where he gets involved.
When you have a playground that's filled with students that are playing, it can be very difficult to have an adult watching everything that's going on. And if something happens where there's some physical aggression that takes place on a playground, they get on that as quick as they can.
The school policy says officials have 24 hours to notify parents once a situation happens. But parents say that's too long.
As far as a child being hurt, I feel within a half hour.
This report shows 9 sinks or fountains at Castleton Elementary that tested above 15 ppb. The highest level was at 43. Despite being a toxic metal, Michelle Thompson with the health department says they're not concerned children who drank the contaminated water have elevated lead levels because of the school's water. She says schools were given information to pass along to concerned parents. What's unclear now is if the water flowing at the rest of Vermont schools will be tested. Pictures of your food, your relationship, your adventures, yourself, your pet, your mood, your accomplishments.
What we have seen is that there have been additional reports of depression, anxiety, and loneliness associated with social media.
Depression or loneliness building on platforms designed to bring people together. Dr. Pulowski says people who spend more time here end up neglecting important things around them, like hobbies or relationships.
Even if you are feeling like you're connecting, you may not be connecting on that deeper level.
So how do we fix it? She says take time to put down the phone. Experts say anxiety and depression are more often reported among people who scroll through social media for more than 2 hours a day.
Okay, power walls are over here.
A modern piece of technology.
This is it, right here. There's 2 of them here. This is the back one, the front one.
Running inside this Vermont log home. Andy McMahon is one of 102 Vermonters who have a Tesla Powerwall already up and running. I'm told 1,200 others are on a waiting list.
I'll feel like a guinea pig to a little point, but someone's got to do it, right?
McMahon says just days after her Powerwalls were installed, a windstorm knocked out power for thousands of Vermonters, including her.
This went on, went off, went on, went off, and we're like, oh boy.
McMahon says after a call to Tesla's customer service and a few flipped switches,
boom, all the lights came on, and that was it. We were gold after that.
JPSS-1 zooms around and sends more detailed snapshots just twice a day.
It allows us to see smaller, better detail, smaller forest fires, know when they're starting, and then tell the decision makers and the responders how they need to respond and react.
JPSS-1 will also help local meteorologists.
16%.
Here's how.
Have to look at that a little bit more carefully.
Before the weather pops up on your screen like this,
here we are looking for just a few snow showers in the morning.
It starts off looking more like this. It's called a meteorological model. Stephen Smith with the Echo Leahy Center says some of those conditions include thunder and lightning. Wind can also ruin your experience.
Employees believe that someone pried their way through this bathroom door. Once they were inside, they bashed this hole to get into the information booth and steal from the ATM.
The Vermont Department of Corrections spends about $1.6 million on substance abuse treatment services. Some of that includes medical-assisted treatment continuation, methadone transportation, medical facilities, and staff to monitor patients. And that bill starts adding up the second an addict is in custody. He says the noise was nonstop.
Vicious dog fights, moms yelling at dog owners yelling at moms who are trying to walk their kids over to the playground.
South Burlington has 1,000 registered dogs. National studies suggest 25% of people actually register their dogs, meaning there could possibly be 4,000 dogs here.
You have your money?
Every weekday morning, Hillary Disselets helps her 3 children get ready for school. Once the shoes are tied and jackets are zipped, they're out the door to catch the school bus alongside Susie Wilson Road in Essex Town.
It's very busy, especially during morning commute.
As the bus approaches and comes to a stop, the driver lays on the horn. But not to get attention from the kids. He already has it. The beeps are for the drivers whizzing by instead of stopping.
Every morning I can take a video and I can get 2, 3 cars, sometimes more, going right past the bus. Oh, there's another one.
Hey, Mason, can you sit so we can do medicine, please?
Every day starts with these medications, and sometimes a negotiation.
I'll give you a saline to squirt Dad. It's ridiculous how much bribery I have to do.
But it has to be done in order to keep little Mason alive. Setting up the medication takes about 15 minutes.
It's kind of a long process. Then actually doing the sterile procedure to get the medication into Mason via his Mediport.
Part 2 is injecting the medication, which can be a real challenge with a 4-year-old. It was at 6 months old, doctors diagnosed him with the disorder.
Initially, when Mason was diagnosed, we had never heard the term hemophilia.
Before his family could do research, tears,
yeah, lots of tears,
and fears
that's your baby,
consumed them.
My parent bubble was shattered with the hemophilia diagnosis. There's things that I did not expect to be doing as a parent.
Mason's parents say besides bribes, cartoons help as a distraction.
Nice job, Mason.
After welcoming their second child, who also has hemophilia, this Vermont couple found their initial woes are gone.
I'm optimistic. Living where we do, currently we have great access to medication, and the treatment options that are coming in the near future are really, really positive.
I want him to be a normal little boy, and I want him to know that he is a normal little kid. This is just one piece of him. All done. Awesome. Awesome.
Every day, Ella and her owner, Charlie Macinas, head to Indian Brook Park in Essex to play fetch.
Bring the ball. Get the ball. Where's the ball? And she'll just keep doing that all the way around.
Even though she's a regular on the trail, hikers can't seem to ignore one small detail.
She's used to them. She knows it's part of the deal when we come here.
These goggles aren't for show, they're for protection.
They act like a bumper for her face.
When Ella runs after the ball, she can't see branches or stumps around her.
Ella, hey.
That's because she's completely blind. Every day on his 10.5-acre farm, John Turner feeds his chickens and does yard work that slowly but surely improves his land. He moved to the hilltop 2 years ago with a goal to eventually provide 85% of the food his family consumes. It's a break from reality that he says saved his life.
War, there's no pretty thing about it.
10 years ago, Turner returned home after 4 years serving as a combat Marine. During his time in Haiti and Iraq, the 32-year-old suffered a traumatic brain injury and developed post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD.
PTSD is a range of symptoms, and I would say that they sort of manifest itself as sort of a real fear, a real concern that the world is a very dangerous place.
At times it's manageable, but at times it slaps you upside the head and there's nothing you can do about it.
The Bristol man isn't alone. About 20% of veterans who fought in the same war as him suffer from PTSD, and now he wants to help. For the last 4 years, Turner has opened his doors to vets who also suffer from PTSD. He teaches them sustainable agriculture in hopes they too one day open their own farm.
Stewarding the land and providing food for your community kind of continues that sense of purpose that a lot of people feel they lose when they leave the military.